Welcome everybody to WordPress Accessibility Day. My name is Abbas Jaffrey. I'm a mathematics teacher and tutor, and I focus on getting mathematics more accessible on the web. Today, right now, we have a panel discussion called Growing Accessibility in Our WordPress Community. And our speakers are Sumner Davenport, a specialty in web accessibility at Sumner M. Davenport and Associates, Alicia St. Rose, the owner at WordPress with Heart, Joe A. Simpson Jr., Digital Communications Administrator for the Los Angeles Metro, Ron Amick, a web developer with Lucky Cat Creative, and Sally Thune, owner and head of U.S. partnerships for Sally Girl Digital Accessibility and Marketing, AAA Track. So I want to welcome all of our speakers, and I'd like to welcome everybody to add questions in the Q&A tab in Slido, and the panelists will answer them throughout the session. And please use the ideas section to chat with other attendees. So welcome everyone, and with that, I will turn it over to our panelists.
Community. For those of us in the WordPress community, community is family. An environment for others to learn and grow. A place where we celebrate everyone's achievements. I'm going to change the presentation's title from Growing WordPress Accessibility in Our Community to what it should be. Her story, Growing WordPress Accessibility in Your Community.
That's how I learn. That's how I learn about you. That's how I connect with you. Mm-hmm. So video calls and these meetups were a much more effective way for me to feel a part of the community. So Sumner helped me, gave me that when I was just ramping up, trying to figure out my career, which is now I am an accessibility marketing consultant and speaker. Yes, it was one of the things that kind of propelled me. You know, it was the perfect storm of multiple things, and she was one of those things because I love how she thinks about accessibility as a whole and not just specific posts. And that's what I try to do. I don't just focus on caption and making sure deaf and hard of hearing people can access things. I want everybody to have access, just like Sumner. We share that in common. And what I love about her is she shares her stories. And there's one story that I share a lot, and I always credit her because it's such a powerful story. You know, so many times clients say, I don't have disabled people in my audience. I don't need to worry about disability, accessibility, right? So she tells a story about how a client, she was working with him on colors for the website, and he picked colors that were not very accessible. She said, well, why don't we take it around the office and get everybody's thoughts on them?
Oh, that was a great story.
Yeah, you remember that story? And then they get to the client's partner's office, and the partner says, don't bother showing me, I'm colorblind. And that just blows my mind because the guy didn't even know his partner was colorblind, and it communicates the importance of accessibility, the importance of people you know may have disabilities and you just don't know it. There's so many disabilities that are not apparent. So, yes, you are most likely going to have people with disabilities in your audience, and maybe working right next to it with you. Great one. Okay, so I never made videos for many years. I am a marketer by career, and I knew the importance of video. And I didn't make videos for years because I know I was born deaf, so I have an accent that comes with it. And I just didn't know how people would receive my accent because I understand if some people have trouble with it, or if it doesn't sound good, you know. So I'm realistic, I understand. But when I started making videos, I got great reception. People were wonderful about it. And then that Access You event was my second event at Access U, the first one was the year before, but it was a smaller one. So it was my first full class that I taught. And so the fact that Sumner invited me because of that made me feel so good, because it showed she liked my speaking. She saw value in what I had to offer. And that was the start of my speaking career, pretty much. It snowballed. But her inviting me was just the first step. And then pretty soon I was getting more invitations. And now this year I've done a TEDx talk. And I don't think that would have happened without those little nuggets along the way, like Summer inviting me to her group.
Yeah, I'm Paul. I'm a graduate student doing research, and my research actually focused on accessibility. Doing a research, basically, my major is computer science, so, and my concentration is software engineering. So we're basically trying to do research on how to build tools to automatically detect accessibility issues in web applications.
Okay.
So, and I met Summer last year during the AIR competition. So I joined AIR last minute, and I was at 9:13. And then we were a team of 4, kind of short-handed, but we had Summer as a mentor. So she's really powerful. Yeah, so she was our mentor for the team. One thing that I remember the most is like we didn't we were trying to make sure screen readers would work on our site. And then Sumner, that thing that struck taking my head the most is like Sumner mentioned how NVDA and JAWS would work differently depending on the environment, user environment. And I was like, wow, that kind of subtlety, you wouldn't know unless you've been doing it for a while. Not only like the high level stuff, she's like good with the low level implementation as well. Like I remember one time we were implementing this navigation bar on the top of the website, and there's a search button, there's a search text search box, and then we were trying to determine how to label it. And then she just pulled out the exact W3C. Like, here's an example of how you can do it. Like, yeah, there's no limit, like you said.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, and I have long black hair. I want to believe I have mischievous eyes. I'm wearing a red t-shirt with a purple pullover, and my background is blurred. How did I meet Sumner? Definitely the very first WordCamp Santa Clarita Valley, organized by you, Joe. I was so new to making websites, still relatively new, and to the WordPress community. WordCamp, that was my very first WordCamp. I had met you like 2 weeks before, and you invited me, and I was like there going, what is this? This is awesome. And I had not heard about web accessibility at all. I was so dang new, and I really lucked in attending that. I know that, you know, as a woman of color, as somebody with neurodivergence who experiences and organizes information differently than a lot of people, that like I know the feeling of being excluded or not being designed for, needing to adapt myself to be able to participate. And so that really affected me and just wanted me to learn more about how this type of inclusion. And I loved the way Sumner presented. She broke things down, made things really easy to understand. And also, you know, at some of her presentations, they were components where we could bring what she was sharing, we could test our own websites and enact fixes to them that made learning about accessibility really empowering. I think for about a year after that WordCamp, whenever Sumner was speaking at a WordPress meetup, like in the LA area, I would get in the car and drive. And I remember there was a WordPress out of Santa Clarita Valley, and a bunch of us were pretty fired up about what we learned. And somehow, like, and I think Ron Amick was definitely there, and it was another woman, and like by the time like Joe and Sumner were walking back to their cars, and somehow we got Sumner to agree to run a meetup with us with about WordPress and accessibility. I think we were the first ones at 2019, or at least the first ones that I know about. In 2020, we had our first meetup in Los Angeles area at a Panera Bread, and you know, there was definitely interest, and then COVID forced us all to go online. And so then we ended up having a worldwide community of WordPress plus accessibility learners, and, you know, from all levels, like super beginners like me to people who have been developing for a while, like Alicia St. Rose, and of course, Ron Amick. And yeah, and it was Sumner like brought in such incredible speakers and educators, like talking about, you know, we would address one topic and then learn from their perspective, and also have components where we actually brought that work learning into our own website. Incredible to see like this flourishing, how many people that Sumner has inspired and mentored. And I feel really lucky to be in community in this way. So thank you, Sumner, for your tireless education and advocacy. We feel really blessed to have you in our community.
I was mentioning to one of my girlfriends who has a digital marketing agency as well about accessibility, and she said she was going to start selling it. I'm like, oh, well, how are you going to do that? Because I knew she didn't really know much, right? And well, she was going to sell an overlay. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I was still too new. So I went back to Sumner, and she, you know, armed me with all the positive ammunition that I needed to educate my friend Karen on the real way to sell accessibility and not with shortcuts. And Karen trusted me, believed in me, canceled her account. And when I had posted that in our Slack group, Sumner said to me that you truly are a real accessibility champion. And that was just like, oh, I just like, it just touched me.
In that chaos, you know, in the churn that has been happening, there's Sumner as, you know, the column, you know, that holds up the roof, the calm in the storm, the, you know, the reasonable voice. And she's consistent, and she never lets down her you know, her fire. She's always got the fire burning for making accessibility happen. She has to control herself sometimes because she gets a little too emotional in some cases, and like with regard to overlays and overlay companies in particular. And but she's just, you know, she is an amazing influence over so many, I mean, a huge range of developers, designers, users of WordPress and beyond WordPress. My professional work with her has been as a co-developer of an accessibility meetup, which began as the WordPress San Fernando Valley meetup in 2020 at the dawn of the COVID problems. We only had one in-person meetup, and it was a great series that was all Sumner. Sumner, thought, oh, let's find someone who's blind, because everyone thinks that's the first thing people think of is blind people. And we got the amazing Anthony Vasquez, and he came in. From there, we went on to every other major area of accessibility. And she's just, and I was along in the front row seat to learn from her.
It went online, obviously, like all the other ones during COVID. And I believe it might have been maybe the third meetup. It felt like it was in March or April that I had the meetup, and one woman showed up. And I believe she was the only person that showed up that night because I was just getting it rolling. And this beautiful redhead shows up, and she's like, I know she means business because the way she's answering and talking, she's really, really like serious and passionate about this accessibility thing. And I had been exposed to accessibility, and in my viewpoint, it was only for people who were blind. Like that, I think most people have that misconception that it's for people who can't see the web, but there's so much more to it. But that night, I was just, that was my basic stuff was, make sure people can read what's on the website, like your text and everything. And she started talking about what are called overlays, which I never actually heard that term used before. And when she kept describing and talking about this, I realized that I had secretly, unbeknownst to my client, put one on his website, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Like, oh my God, this thing slides out. People can do whatever they want. And as she's talking about it, saying that when that thing slides out, in a lot of cases, not all 100%, but a lot of cases, in most cases, it actually gets in the way, and it flags down people to like maybe look more at your website to see if it's really accessible without that thing. Okay, because really it should be without it. So while she's talking about this, I kind of sneaked away, like literally logged into my client's site. I was like, deactivate, and I deleted that thing. Okay, and that was the first and last overlay I ever put on a website, and I am so thankful that Sumner was there to point me in that direction. And in the midst of that, I started realizing there was really more to this than putting some plugin on. Also more to, you can't see the website. And so I'm the kind of person that if I know that there is now an area that is important and it actually will make other people's lives better, and I have the opportunity to do that, then I'm all in. So that night was really the night where it turned around for me, and it was really due to Sumner Davenport. It really was. Sumner Davenport, you are probably one of the most influential people I've ever come across in this WordPress community. You have literally pivoted the way that I work and develop websites. And it's not about the coding or the geeky part. It's about having my heart opened to people who have diff abilities. That's the word I want to use, because there's not a disadvantage to people with abilities that are different. And I just wanted to make sure that everything that I can provide on the web is open to anyone's ability, no matter where they are on the spectrum. And I want to thank you so wholeheartedly for that night when a light bulb went on, and it has only gotten brighter and it will never dim. And I want to thank you so much. And I love you, and you are a dear friend of mine now.
Wow, Sumner is so incredible. And now you can see why she's meant so much to our community in terms of accessibility. Here's some other things that we were working on in the past 5 years as a community. We had 2 teams participate in the Nobility Air competition, where we built client sites for nonprofits. The incredible thing about that competition was that we had to work on the WCAG guidelines and apply them to specific areas of our website, which was pretty awesome. We, as mentioned at the top, we celebrate everything that our community does. We're all connected on social media, and whenever something happens, whenever we speak or get a new job or get some training, we share it with each other and we congratulate each other. We also, in the lead up to WordPress Accessibility Day 2 years ago, we did a mega meetup where we had speakers in and sort of simulated what people would get on WordPress Accessibility Day. We were one of the first and only WordCamps to have not 1, 2, or 3 speakers as most camps do, but we had 16 speakers in a dedicated track on both days at WordCamp Santa Clarita, which was a first. Go to a meetup. You can go to the IAAP page and the events tab and find a number of different meetups focusing on accessibility, not just WordPress accessibility, but general accessibility topics all across the country. Here are also some resources on how to contribute to WordPress accessibility on the Make WordPress channel. Just click on the accessibility box and you'll find out about when the next meeting is, the next bug scrub, and how to get involved. And now, time for our panel. Alicia St. Rose, Ron Amick, Sally Thune, and Sumner Davenport. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. It was a typical California winter evening, and I was driving down to West Hills to see a speaker. I had heard that there was this incredible accessibility speaker, and for our very first WordCamp Santa Clarita, as a former Toastmaster, I was always on the lookout for great speakers. The evening was incredible. There was this dynamic speaker, so dynamic that the person next to me turned and punched me in the shoulder. She said, "Oh, accessibility makes me so angry." But that's Sumner for you. Her words are so impactful, they make you want to act. And today's panel, I'm joined by some of my closest friends who over the past 5 years, we've done some incredible things in Santa Clarita. And my hope is that when you take in this panel, when you interact with this panel, you'll leave here today and you'll want to take that first step and take accessibility into your work life. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to each of our panelists. First off, let's talk with Alicia. You mentioned Sumner's impact on you. Why don't you talk a little bit about how you've taken some of her teachings out into your work? I know you mentioned about taking off the overlay. There's another story where you worked with a software manufacturer and did something pretty awesome.
Like which one of those? Help me out here.
I know you made a suggestion on their chat board to make a change. With
Gotcha. Yeah, during the air rally, we were making a website. It's a competition to make a website as accessible as possible. Someone on this panel has won as placed, but it was not our team. Shout out to Sally. And we used a Generate Press theme for the basis that we were going to build in this custom WordPress site. And occasionally I would come across something that I couldn't really access, or I didn't know how I could make it accessible as per the guidelines that I was learning during this rally, which is an amazing way to have some fun and also learn accessibility, almost like a crash course. And every time that I would mention these things on their forum, I would get a response back thank you so much. And in one case, they even said they were going to add this to the documentation on how to find the ways to do this, but they were so amenable to it. And actually that experience kind of compels me to reward the people who are doing it right. There's a lot of companies out there who care about this, and you won't know that until you engage with them and show them something that maybe they didn't know about, and then you'll realize that that what you don't know can't be held against you. And so it's, I don't want to say it's your responsibility to bring things to people's attention, but it's definitely a movement in like expanding this whole thing. So
Awesome. And now I'll turn to Ron next. I know there's a story of a famous meeting in a parking lot that turned into a meetup. Why don't you sort of expound on, Jennifer talked a little bit about it, how Sumner had, impacted you so much so that you decided to start a meetup on accessibility.
Well, it was actually Jennifer, among the three of us that were promulgating this sort of movement. It was Jennifer more than anyone. I mean, she turned to me, and she had been speaking with another lady who I've forgotten the name of, I'm sorry to say. And we looked over at the other, it wasn't in the parking lot. It was, my recollection was at the end of your meetup, Joe. And we looked over at Sumner as she was putting her things together on the other side of the room. And then, we made our move. But, I don't know why she would be receptive to three strangers coming up to her and saying, hey, would you like to spend, 40 hours a month putting a meetup together? But she was. I mean, Sumner, as fierce an advocate as she is for all of these good things that have been mentioned, is very open, and she, nothing phases her, and she is, she's accessible. She's got the gift.
no,
So I mean, we just went from there, and it turned out, I mean, not only was she amenable, but she was just fantastic to work with. I mean, she's on time, she's articulate, she's organized, she knows everything in the world. And she doesn't wear it like a lot of people in Hollywood do. She's a force. She's really a force of nature.
Awesome. And Sally, I'm going to turn to you now because Alicia mentioned that someone on the team won that wasn't technically on the team. And you're sort of our ringer, because even though you're probably the newest to the group, you've achieved some incredible things, as speaking as well as winning competitions. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? But first, talk a little bit about how Sumner entered the picture with you and how it ended up with you speaking at WordCamp US.
Well, first of all, hi, everyone. Get connected into a WordPress accessibility community, because it's been the best thing that I've ever done. These people aren't just associates, they're really dear friends now. And I first met Sumner on August 8th, 2020, when some of the Northern Los Angeles meetups got together and did a mega accessibility meetup. And I was hooked, and I was so impressed, and just wanted to learn more. And Sumner's just always there via email, Slack, if you have a question. I'm very new to this. I've, been doing digital marketing for a while. I heard about accessibility a few years ago, asked my developers about it. They said it wasn't important, wasn't necessary, but something stuck with me. And on that day, my journey began, and I've attended everything. I think I've been 120 meetups in the last 2 years, and I just jumped in and volunteered where I could. I call Joe my guiding light, kind of guided me where to go. WordPress Accessibility Day 2020. I wrote the blogs for the sponsors, helped at LAX 2020 WordCamp, and then Joe did the WordCamp Santa Clarita, where I was invited to be an organizer. That was awesome. And a speaker backed out last minute, and they asked me to talk about my journey. and their support and encouragement. Sumner spent hours with me going over my presentation, helping me record it. She was just so encouraging. And then after that, other speaking engagements came up, and I'm not a developer, I'm not a public speaker, but I wanted to just motivate people to start their accessibility journey, as everyone here has and in the accessibility community. And that's what I speak about. Just take that first step. A lot of the resources shared come from everyone in this group. And I decided to apply for US WordCamp 2022, even though I was told the first-time speakers aren't accepted. And I was accepted as a backup. And then someone had to back out, and that was an amazing experience, getting to meet Alicia and Joe in person. I still can't wait to meet Sumner and Ron and Jennifer, though I feel like I just know you guys so well. And here we are, 2 years later at WordPress Accessibility Day 2022 with you. When you follow your heart, amazing things happen. And accessibility isn't overwhelming. Find your people to help you and support you and mentor you, and you can help make a difference. I sold my first accessible website 2 weeks ago. I'm so excited. And I'm working with a company now, a nonprofit, who paid a lot of money for the website, and their developers told them it was accessible because it was built on WordPress. And even though WordPress is accessible, you still have to make additions to it, and their site is not accessible. So I encourage everyone, we want to include everyone, and this is how we do it.
Yeah, what's so incredible, and what I really want to stress to the audience that's looking in today, is that we've all taken the message and we've all carried it off in different directions and done a lot of different things. But Sumner, thanks so much again for allowing me to do this, to embarrass you in front of the world, but to sing your praises. How would you say, or what would you say is next in terms of our community? Our community's done a lot of growing in the last 5 years. Where would you like to see it go, or what would you like to share with the audience that's listening in today in terms of learning or growing their community in terms of learning accessibility?
You expect me to talk after
when the video was playing, I was getting choked up, because I just remember when everybody was talking, there was a point when everybody got emotional, because we care so much about you, and you've impacted us in so many different ways.
Well, thank you, and the feelings are mutual, because I feel that when you get involved with accessibility for the right reasons, it is an emotional connection that I'll find my voice here in a second. Everyone that I have had the pleasure of speaking with, networking with, interacting with in these last couple of years has empowered me and has fueled my desire to continue. Accessibility is very personal to me, and it's my passion that I know sometimes my red hair personality gets in the way, and I have to kind of chill for a second that maybe I'm moving too fast. But yet there's people like those here that are traveling the same speed I am to get the message out. My suggestion is to get involved. Find the community in your area, whether it's virtual or whether it's in real life. Even if it's only when one person shows up, connect and move forward. If you're already working with accessibility, find other people to work with. One of the great things that I found when working with the AIR project and working with Ron and Jennifer is working with a team of people that have the same focus, the same mission. It's exciting, it's empowering. It will give you the fuel you need to keep going. And there are a lot of people that are great as a web designer working solo. I think my thought and feelings are that when we find other people to work and play with on this accessibility journey. It does make it more fun. It makes it easier, and we can reach farther. So if I'm working by myself on a website, that's one. But if I'm working with a team of people and we each put in our area of expertise and our strength, and maybe we're working on 6 at a time or 12 at a time, that means more websites are becoming accessible in a sooner amount of time.
Awesome. And I know, I purposely didn't share what I'm doing because, I'm sort of a private person, but behind the scenes, just to share with the audience, because again, what I really want people to do is to, whatever you feel like your expression is, or whatever you feel like you can do in terms of impacting the world in terms of your accessibility message, do it. Don't feel like if it's not standard, don't do it. Just act, just do something. I know for me, I love to see, I love to share people that I find interesting with others in the community. I love to organize events in the community. And like I mentioned at the top, when I saw Sumner, I was like, people have got to hear Sumner's message. And from that point, going from WordCamps, I this past year, I went to WordCamp US as a team captain, and a story I wanted to share with the audience, which was pretty awesome. Unfortunately, someone at WordCamp US had a bad accessibility experience. And this time around, I wanted to make sure that I was on the team at the very beginning. So when they toured possible venues, I would be there. I also put together a venue accessibility checklist. And I wouldn't have done this stuff if I wouldn't have been encouraged or empowered to by just being around Sumner for the past 5 years. So again, whatever you think you're doing, like for instance, I'm not a developer, but I'm on the Make WordPress Accessible team, and I'm just contributing in any way I can. Because I just want to be around and continue to learn and grow. So again, I encourage you, go to your local meetup, attend the Make meetings on Fridays. Anything you can do to learn is something that's going to make an impact on your audience. I loved Meryl's story about, she was sharing your story, Sumner, about the 2 business partners, one of which was colorblind. And he was working alongside a partner who couldn't care less about that, or didn't know about it, and didn't want to change his designs to be more inclusive. So Alicia, I've been chatting for a while. Just what would you like to share with folks watching in terms of their journey as developers, in terms of the work they do in terms of making it accessible? Or what's the best way that you would, or what advice would you give to them?
Oh, okay. It's fun to learn this stuff. It is really fun. At first, it seems really overwhelming, and you just have to start where you are. And a lot of times, it's Googling. And the most important thing is to actually witness or find documentation or demonstrations of people with disabilities using the web and how they use their assisted technology, because then you start to think from the technology's viewpoint. Because this has been said in some of the other sessions, a lot of times people will just have read more, click here for links. Well, with some assisted technologies, they pull the links out and just put them on the sidebar so they can just scan those. So if you don't have more than click here, read more, then they have no idea what the context. So it puts you put more context around every piece of the site, every piece of the layout, or the piece of like this feature that's going in. What if this stood alone? What we had, I can't even remember, but there was a situation. Oh, it was just organizing some Dropbox folders. It comes into everything. So we were organizing them by year, but inside each folder, we used the same titles that we'd have used in other years. And I said, well, no, what if one of those folders is separate without the context of its parent folder? So let's put the year in front of every folder in the folder too. And so you start, like, your whole world starts to change. Like, oh, we can make this better organized for everybody, So, and also, it's The EDX, there's an EDX course that I would like suggest that everyone like just checks that out, because like was also been said in a lot of sessions, is a lot of us thought it was just for blind people that we were doing this accessibility, but that's probably 1 out of 50 different disabilities that are being affected by the internet. So, so that course, the EDX course, is really good. And I guess Joe will supply that resource link.
Yeah, and the other story, and it just came to mind while you were talking, and for the folks that are out there, our group is also on, we have our own Slack channel, and when we share wins with each other. And there was a story that went around about Active Campaign, and someone reached out to them.
Yeah, that was another one. I was noticing that I couldn't tab to the submit button. I was like, "Oh, that's bad." And so then I told them about it, and the support girl wrote back to me, "I'm sending this straight to the top. It's got attention ASAP on it." I'm like, "Oh, cool!" And I just tested it again, and it seems to be working. So.
Awesome.
So that's another win, Active Campaign.
Yeah, so you can make an impact. Just reach out to these folks. And I think one thing that's really powerful about what you were talking about today is that these people want to make changes, but they may not know that they need to. So by you reaching out, you're that conduit to make it happen. So for the group, I wanted to toss this one out. What's next? What do you think as a community would help us grow, or what do you see as a challenge or an issue that you want to share with the audience? At this point, anyone could jump in and
I'll just do really quick. Exposure. You don't have to know the code or tech stuff, but if you can write, or if you have a blog, just tell a story about someone you know trying to use the internet, and have them, talk about it, or write about how you discovered how to use ARIA label polite so the slider goes through and doesn't interrupt somebody, the screen reader, while they're reading another part of the site. Just anything that you know about accessibility, make it fun and knowledgeable so that it starts to be a thing that people run across almost all the time.
Sally, Ron?
I could just encourage any developers to wake up about this. It's something I wasn't focused on at all I've been doing this for maybe 23 years or so, 24 years. And I put in alt text in all my images, but I was doing it completely wrong, and out of ignorance, and probably for SEO as much as anything else. It's really, really important, and it's really, really dumb. It's just dumb not to go this route. You're excluding, a huge swath of all possible viewers of your material. For those with e-commerce sites, you're excluding, gigantic commercial opportunity. This work raises all boats. It's been shown, and this is something in Sumner's presentations. She shows you the curb cuts in streets that were once just for wheelchair folks that help all of us, and there are many examples like that. It's completely insane that 90% of websites do not help people with disabilities, and at the same time those with the list of people with disabilities is growing. It's completely crazy. So we just have to get to work, and we need to talk, like Alicia said. We need to share. We who are doing it need to talk about it and share, the techniques.
All right, Sally. Before we turn it over to Sumner, what any thoughts you want to add at this point?
Well, with the virtual world now, there's so many opportunities to learn and join. And there's Amber Hines has a Facebook group. So if you're stuck, you can always get answers in there. I was going to plug Sumner's meetup resuming in 2023, but I'm going to let her do that because you'll learn a lot there as well, and actually get to practice too, because you can take the courses, but you need to practice it to really understand it. And her WordPress meetup does that, and just attend them. Everyone
is so welcoming. And accessibility benefits not just those living with different abilities, but all of us. Like you look at the curb cuts, that were initially meant for wheelchairs. Everyone uses them now. Every time I use something of convenience, it goes, oh, that had been created for people that, were living with a disability, and now we all enjoy it too. So it's just the common goal, just to make the web accessible for all abilities. And it's just the greatest feeling when you contribute to that.
Awesome. And so Sumner, we have about 3 minutes left. I want to give it to you to do whatever you want with it, because again, for folks watching, someone could step into your community and make an incredible difference. Like I said, I was hoping to make a difference in my community, but meeting Sumner took it in a whole different direction that I couldn't imagine. So Sumner, thank you. And what would you like to leave the audience with today?
I'm thrilled that we have so many people that have an interest in accessibility. The more people that are interested, the more we're going to accomplish. I would like to encourage people to learn more. We have a lot of people now, more than we've had in the past, that are speaking up and saying the reasons to make something accessible. We need fixers. We need people that will fix a website natively, correctly. And it's a wonderful opportunity to do that. And at the same time, we also want to make sure that we keep networking with each other. We keep supporting each other. We keep reaching out. Like it was mentioned, it's not my meetup, it's Ron's and Jennifer's and mine collectively, and it's our community meetup for WordPress and accessibility. But our objective was to let's teach and then let's put it in practice. So when you learn something, put it in practice, learn how to do it really well, and get involved. Joe mentioned Make.WordPress. Earlier today, I know there was conversation about captions. Go to WordPress TV, find a video, and one that doesn't have a caption file yet, and learn how to do correct captions and contribute to the community by doing that. You will learn so much, and you might get hooked, and you might want to just keep doing it. But the big takeaway is get involved, stay involved, hang around with great people like this, and it becomes fun.
Thank you so much, Sumner. And again, you've met our family. Make sure to reach out to us if you have any questions, and we can encourage you and help you grow your community and grow the accessibility of WordPress. Thanks for sharing your day with us, and have a great event.
Thank you, everybody, for attending this session with Sumner Davenport, Alicia St. Rose, Joe A. Simpson Jr., Ron Amick, and Sally Thune. You can continue the conversation in our chat or on social media. We ask that you use the hashtag WPA11YDay, that's WP Day, and hashtag WPAD2022. We also appreciate if you would go to our website at wpaccessibility.day/feedback and provide us some anonymous feedback for our speakers on their presentation, and you can enter to win a t-shirt while you're there. So we ask you to stay tuned. Coming up next at 2100 UTC is going to be Think, Smart, and Adapt, meeting WCAG 2 without rebuilding from scratch, and that's presented by Michael Zemak, the project manager at Cut to Code. And while you're waiting, you can please visit our sponsors pages, grab some virtual swag, and enter for a chance to win great prizes. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you shortly after the break.